Hi, my name is Tori. I am an artist and an illustrator, and in this video I'm just going to be doing kind of like my own little DIY color and sip. I don't know. I think for folks who work a lot, you know that it can be very stressful, very tiring, or I guess even if you're in school, but like when you get home afterwards, you're just like so tired and you really don't want to do anything sometimes, but you might have like kids or other responsibilities and stuff that you need to like deal with. But it's also important to either find time or just kind of like forcibly make time for yourself and taking care of yourself. And so this video is just like me trying to do that for me, where I am taking some time to color a page that I drew a while back. And I'm not thinking too deeply about like, things don't have to be perfect. I think that's like the beauty of a coloring page, is that like you already have an image and you just need to fill in the colors, and the colors don't have to be perfectly in the lines, because we're not doing this for anything like formal. I'm not selling this to anybody. I'm not like, it's not something that a customer paid for. This is just something that I'm doing for me. And so it doesn't have to be like super high stakes. So for this one today, this one is a goddess, and she's kind of like based on the muses from Hercules. And specifically, this is when I like a point in my life when I really wanted to draw like more curvier girls in my art. So this is actually from a couple years ago, but yeah, I just wanted to practice drawing like curvier bodies, fuller figures, but it also be related to something that like I was interested in. So in this case, that's Hercules, or the sort of like the Greek goddess kind of vibe, which is why she has like these kind of lovely folds of clothes. And when I was coloring her, I wanted everything to look soft. So I wanted her skin to look soft, the shading, but I also wanted her dress to look soft, which you'll see later in the video. But especially in the beginning, the colors are like really soft, or like subtle, maybe is the better word, because like the shading on like her chest and stuff like that is because the colors that I used to shade were not dramatically different from her skin. And actually at one point I realized that this is like way too light or too soft, I guess, the color difference. And so I ended up like making the colors a little bit more, making the contrast a little bit stronger later on. So as far as materials go, I printed this page on some cardstock paper, so just some really thick paper, since I was going to be using markers anyway, and I didn't want it to like bleed through and mess up my table or anything like that. The markers that I'm using are Copic sketch markers, or maybe they're called Copic, I'm not really sure. And they're like some of the like original alcohol markers, so they're actually secretly like very expensive now because they come all the way from Japan, but I would not buy these new. Like I've had this set since at least like 8 years ago, so they're like, these markers are not new, and I've already had to throw away like a quarter of my markers from this set just because they've like dried out over time. But I do like alcohol markers in general, just because I love how vibrant the colors are and how well they blend, or like how easy it is to blend the colors. And especially like for this one, since I wanted that like really soft coloring, you literally can just like put the marker down, and then if it's like the colors are too sharp, you just go back over with another layer of marker, and it just like really helps it to blend out nicely. If I wasn't gonna, or if I didn't already have these Copic markers, I probably would use like Ohuhu markers, or like if I wanted like a big set, or honestly, like I've seen like they sell alcohol markers literally everywhere now, so like even like a dollar store or like a Ross or a Burlington or something like that, a lot of those places usually also sell alcohol markers, just like super discounted, so you could buy a set for like $6. You do not have to spend nearly as much money as I did when I bought these. But since I do have them, I'm gonna use them until they all dry up, and then eventually I'll replace them with something else. Color palette wise, I tried to keep it really simple, so I didn't want to like overthink it too much. For her skin, like I said, I picked two colors, basically just two brown tones. I picked I actually just kind of literally randomly grabbed 2 browns, but I picked 2 that seemed like they were on the darker side because I wanted her to have like kind of rich brown skin. I think one of the colors is like a chestnut kind of color, and I didn't really pay attention to what the other one was. But then for the dress, I wanted it to feel like something more royal or more regal. I know, like, I don't know if there's any like history nerds out there. I think like most Greek folks would have had like white or light colored clothes, so maybe not a purple, but I just felt like it's a really pretty color, especially for her skin color. And also I think purple is just really nice. It just feels very regal, very majestic, very ethereal, all the good words. But yeah, I just wanted to pick colors that like I didn't have to think too deeply about. So basically originally I had 3 purples. One was like a really light purple, which was like the main color of the dress. And then I had a kind of like pinky purple, so something just to make the colors like a little bit more exciting or like to have a little bit more pop to them. And then I had just a dark purple, so like an actual shadow. So basically there's like the main color, the shadow, and then like a fun I don't know, just to add a little spice color were the 3 colors that I used. And basically my process for coloring her was to go in sections just so that the markers didn't dry out too much, and start with the base color and then do my like sort of middle color and then my shadow, and then go over it again with my base color or my light color to really help to like blend the colors out and make it soft. This is another reason why I usually print on like a thick cardstock when I'm going to be using alcohol markers, just because all of that blending can really tear up your paper if the paper isn't thick enough or sturdy enough. So I do prefer to use like something that's a little bit more resilient. But this isn't anything like fancy or expensive. You can get it at like most office supply stores, just like cardstock paper. Anyway, from here I'm just repeating the same process over and over again, so I'll let you sit with some music for a little bit, and then I'll come back when I have something interesting to tell you. Okay, so around here, my marker was giving up on me. Like, it was dying. You can tell because it's getting like really streaky, and part of the reason I didn't leave the sound on for this video is because the screeching sound that it was making was so bad. Like, this marker was dry, it was giving up on me. It already was a pretty light marker to start, but it was getting see-through. So I had to I was using the sort of like broad side of the marker, and I was just like pressing down really hard, and I was trying to go like a little bit slower to try to get as much ink in each like little pass that I was doing. And then I had to go over it again and do a second coat, but you see I'm like really having to like go over the same section again and again just to get an even coat down, and it's still much streakier compared to like the sections up above, but by the time I'm done it's like not so noticeable, but it did bother me just a little bit when I was looking at it. But I tried to remind myself that I'm doing this to de-stress, not to stress myself out more, so ultimately it was not that important. Okay, here I am pretty much done with the leg, and then I feel like it really could use some more contrast, so I try to use a slightly darker purple, like even darker than the one I was using before, but as you can see here, it was dead. It did not want to work for me. It did like one ugly splotch and then it completely gave up. So I had to find another purple, and luckily this one was dark enough that it covered up the old one, and so I was able to just like blend that out and really make this piece look a little bit more three-dimensional by having like the really strong shadow in the part that's supposed to be like tucked away under her dress. But of course, once I did this, it kind of made me realize that like the shadows on her skin could also be darker. So I get another dark color, this time a darker brown for the skin to like really better define, I guess, the shadows of her face. The ones before were cute, like there's nothing wrong with them, but they just really weren't dark enough to feel like 3D, I guess. So I'm going back over some of those shadow spaces to really define where her shadows are in her body. For her hair, I just used the same shadow color that I had used for her skin, and I just put it on her hair, so something that overall would look a little bit darker than her skin color. And then I used an even darker brown to sort of shade that in and give it, I don't know, I almost always shade in my color pages just to make them look a little bit more 3D. Obviously it doesn't have to look realistic because this is like a very stylized picture, but I do like things to feel like, I don't know, that they have like real shape, or that they have like vibrant colors. And so I use like a combination of like light colors and dark colors on pretty much everything that I color. Last but not least, I just add the little like accents or embellishments. So I make her little hair tie and little buttons on her shoulders, kind of like a gold color. And then I just go over everything with a little white pen to add like little spots of highlight. After that, the picture was pretty much done. I did find this to be really, really helpful as far as just helping me like reset and de-stress. And I hope that similarly you will pick up a coloring page or do something to de-stress. And if you found this video helpful, or if you just like to see my art, please consider liking and subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.